We're live. It is Friday, August 21st, 2020, 5:02 p.m. We are 2 minutes late today, and I'm not apologizing for it. I want to tell you an important story before we get started, but I have not remotely decided what it is. So story is going to emerge as I tell it. I was sitting in front of the television yesterday evening, waiting for Joe Biden to give his speech. And like the rest of you, I was gripped with a certain anxiety about what was going to come out of his mouth. And unlike the rest of you, I remembered that back in 1993, when Joe Biden was merely the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee and Judge Ruth Bader Ginsburg was before him on nomination to be an Associate Justice of the Supreme Court, Joe Biden asked her a very long question. A question that was so long and so rambling and so incoherent that the New Republic published it as an article entitled Blah, Blah, Blah by Joe Biden. The punchline of which, at the very end, was Judge Ginsburg saying, I'm sorry, I didn't understand that. Can you repeat the question, or something like that? And so yesterday evening, after mentioning this on In Lieu of Fun, in preparation for Joe Biden's speech, I went and found this article, which took a little bit of doing because the Westlaw, as Kate informed me, the Westlaw archive for the New Republic does not go back to 1993. But I did dig it up and I tweeted it. And I just want to say, Joe Biden has always been this inarticulate. You can say that's disqualifying for being president, or you can say that makes him a little bit less inarticulate than the incumbent, or you can say maybe articulation is not the highest value in a chief executive. But if you read this article, I promise you, you will not say Joe Biden, his verbal acuity is less than it was in 1993, 3.5 decades ago. We are not allowed to have fun anymore. Joe Biden's still not very articulate. In lieu of fun, we have Scott Shapiro, who is struggling with making his decision about who he's going to vote for in the coming election. Scott Shapiro is the only Yale Law professor who's struggling with this question, but we want to give him voice to the agony that his choice is going to involve. Scott, welcome back to In Lieu of Fun.
Well, thank you so much, and I really appreciate how open and I don't know, just non-judgmental you've been about my indecision. I just really want to get it right. Barack Obama said that this was the most important election in modern U.S. history, and I believe that's true. But so I just don't want to screw it up.
Yeah. So, first of all, do you agree with Barack Obama that the stakes are really high, or are you skeptical about the premise?
No. I believe that this is it's a choice between two visions of America. And two very different leaders, two very different styles, two very different ideologies. There's just a lot to take in. So
how would you describe the choice? Just like lay it out for us, the stakes as you understand it. And then we're going to talk about your relative attractions and repulsions from the two visions that you lay out. But, let's just start with a sort of, in your view, a neutral account of what the two options on the table are.
Well, thank you so much. And also I want to say that I realize that, philosophers, we overthink things. But just indulge me. Okay. And what I did was, I made a little PowerPoint. Okay.
Excellent. That's what we need.
Yeah, right.
Does it have a flow chart in it for decision-making purposes?
No, I didn't want to confuse the viewers. I mean, I've been doing this for a very long time. I have a PhD in philosophy. I'm really good at it. And I didn't want to make it too complicated. Okay.
So you can
I'm
share.
totally down with that.
You have to go up to above your face with your mouse, and you should see it like kind of in a little menu will emerge, and like kind of in the middle-ish is a share screen.
Oh, great. Okay. By the way, I just wanted to say that you just explained that to me like I was your grandmother. Thank you. Okay.
It's
Okay.
like
You did say you were a philosopher. And now I just want to say you're exercising, as we speak, the sovereign prerogative of philosophers, laughter.
Oh, is that the sovereign prerogative? I didn't. Because philosophers tend not to be the funniest. Do you guys see this?
I can
Yes,
see
we
that.
do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got it.
So do you know that this is my apparition photograph? This
Spectre.
is. I'm sorry.
This is your specter.
Yeah, that's my specter, exactly. A specter is haunting Washington Square Park. So this was a picture from when I did the show, I guess in March. And this is my decision 2020 analysis. Now I have Excel spreadsheet, so I imported this into a PowerPoint. Okay, so this is just so you know. Okay, on the left is Donald Trump. On the right is Joe Biden.
Wait, hold on. We don't see. All I see is your face still in thing.
Yeah, I only see you.
Yeah.
Can you see it now?
Nope. Still just you.
Okay.
Just
You know
you.
what? You know what I.
Oh wait, yeah. Oh, I can see you, but you have to go to. I'm gonna explain it like you're my grandmother.
Yeah.
Go to view.
Go to view on the browser.
Yep, on the browser, on like
And?
the PowerPoint.
And
And then just go to full start
Full screen?
slideshow. Yeah.
oh, okay. Okay. So now you can see me.
No, I still can't
Okay.
see it. Okay, so hold
No, I
on. Go
still
to
can't.
Now.
That was weird because I could see your mouse for a second, and so I thought that there was but no. Okay, so
No.
wait, skip to part. Okay, so leave the screen share, and then go to and then open it again, and then put it on the third slide.
So in lieu of fun, and then I can to share. Okay, I got it. I think this does it.
Close the message. Oh no! Now we're looking at our. Now we're looking.
Yeah, awesome.
Sorry. Oh my god. Go out.
This is great. I think we should just watch this mesmerizing.
I broke
recursive
in lieu of fun.
Oh my god.
I broke your show.
In
Holy
lieu of
Christ.
fun, we have Scott Shapiro's endless
Oh my
recursive PowerPoint loop.
Oh my god.
Oh my God. See, can I just say something?
It's out of anything.
When we talk about how hard it is to make these decisions, I mean, you're just getting a sense of why it's been so been so
That's right.
difficult.
So you go
Yeah.
to share screen, and then you go application window, and then pick your PowerPoint screen. Or your
Oh, here we go.
PowerPoint.
Here.
This is it.
I
Remember?
love the meta story here of the screen share fail.
Okay.
That's like my favorite
Oh,
part.
here. Do you see this?
Yes.
Yes.
I see it.
Okay,
excellent.
great. Okay, so you see on the left is Donald Trump.
Yes.
On the right is Joe Biden. So what I
Yes.
did was, in order to make it easier, I listed the pro reasons on the left side for Donald Trump. And then when I want to do the pro reasons for Joe Biden, it's on the left, on the right. Okay, so let me just start with the first one, okay? And so first one is that he's a businessman. Now, that's kind of it's a bit important to me because I think that like we have to run the government in some sense like a business. It's not exactly like a business, but it's like a business. But the thing is that he's not like a very good businessman. So that kind of that he's a failed business. So it's like it's like, and he's a builder. So that's what's good because a lot of things need to be built. But that's a good thing. So, but he doesn't really build things really. He just puts his name on it. So that's, again, it's complicated. Everything is so complicated. My 401k went up.
Yeah. Not your
that's an important one. But of course then it went down.
Yeah, then went down, but it went back up again. So that's the thing. That's another thing about deliberation. Like the reasons for action go in and out, and it's kind of it's been very good for my Twitter feed.
Yeah.
That's true of me too.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Everyone, all of Twitter.
Whether principally my Twitter feed has benefited from Donald Trump or Rachel Maddow or both, but I do feel like the two of them are responsible for my Twitter profile.
I think
that one moves me, Scott.
Yeah, I know. I
gotta say, my 401k, I don't know whether to attribute it to Trump, and I don't care about business or builder, but I do care about my Twitter feed. And you're right. I don't think had Hillary Clinton been the president, I don't think I would have 405,000 Twitter followers.
Yeah, that's right. What you would be doing is you would be like, I don't know, you'd be tweeting and blogging about like the latest FISA court thing of something.
Exactly. I mean, I would be obscure, kind of influential within a certain sphere. We would not have a lot of people on in lieu of fun. And you would be like known among students and other like jurisprudence faculty and in that kind of Yale Law School sort of way. And Kate would be exactly who she is now. I think this is really a good argument for you and me to vote for Donald Trump. But I don't think it really affects Kate at all.
Yeah.
No, I think I think Kate just needs to make sure that Facebook doesn't go under.
I just have to make sure Facebook doesn't go under, and I just have to keep doing weird shit like lamprosciutto and like taking pictures of it.
And baby chipmunks.
Baby chipmunks.
I love animals I've met. I just.
Oh, I know. That was lovely. I should bring back animals I've met. I have so many more. Anyway, sorry.
But the thing is, I love that you met them. I think that's so. Here's the next one. Okay, Portland Chaz. Now, I don't actually know what that is, but I'm told it's a very scary thing and a concerning thing. So that's another thing I wanted to put down. It's a little less important than the other ones because I actually don't know what it is. But I just want I just want everyone to know I'm trying to be complete. And then
wait, I have a question about that one.
Yeah, sure.
Physical distance diminished, like some of our audience is in Oregon or Washington or Northern California, and for them, just Portland Chaz, they might not know what it is either, but it's closer. Whereas you're all the way in New York or New Haven or wherever the hell you are. And so I know it's like we live in a zero latency, we're all in one place world now, except that we're not all in one place and Portland's on the other side of the country. So should that be a higher salience variable to people who are a little closer to whatever the heck that is?
That's why when I did this, I made it as this is Scott's decision. Okay, your mileage may vary, and I respect everyone out there if they have a different view than I do. I can't really say because I'm not really sure where Chaz is. But my mom,
I'm gonna venture a guess. I think it looks like somebody's name who lives in like Europe, like in France, because they capitalized
I do want to point
the
out
last
that it wasn't
part.
even in Portland. It was in Seattle, but that's okay because
Oh, is Chaz in Seattle? Wait.
I think Chaz is in Seattle, isn't it? I don't know. Somebody on the
This upsets
chat
everything.
will correct me if I'm. But I think the autonomous zone was in Seattle. But since your point is that you don't know what it is anyway, it kind of reinforces your point if you put it in the wrong state.
Yeah, right. But again, I really want to be I want to be comprehensive. So even if I don't really fully understand what it is at all, I want to include it. Okay.
That seems right. That seems only fair because you're trying to get the decision tree full. Okay, so we see the pros on.
Wait, no, and there's one
Trump
other, which
here.
is that he may grow into office.
Oh,
I just
like a decision tree.
Yeah, right, exactly. Like that could happen because people have been predicting it for a while.
But when do you remove that as a possibility? Given that he's he's in an age demographic where growth doesn't tend to happen so much anymore, and B, that he's he's had 3.5 years to do the growing into office thing, and all the times that we've heard that he was going to become president, he hasn't.
I'm an optimist. I really believe in I believe in people, and look, God knows he frustrates me. But it is, I just want to include it again, just to be comprehensive. It's low probability, but it would be big if it happened.
Okay.
All right.
And so on the other side, everything is shit. And so I'm really.
That's not really like a pro for Joe Biden so much.
No, I know.
It's like a negatively framed pro.
No, I know.
Are you sure you're not confusing the pro for Biden with the con for Trump?
Well, it works out that way. If you're not for one, you're for the other. No judgment in brainstorming and deliberation. Okay, this is what I have so far. I
buy that.
Yeah, and I will just tell you that I have to say that this convention really shifted my views, which is that I was, I'm really firmly in the Biden camp. It's just that I just want to, I just really want to be really careful. So I'm going to keep this PowerPoint and my Excel spreadsheet going until it clinches it for me. I mean, one thing that would definitely clinch it for me is if the tax returns came out. The audit was over and his tax returns came out, and I found something like fishy in the tax returns or something like that. So there's a lot of.
But wait, that's really interesting because what if the tax returns came out and they were totally clean? Would that make you more likely to vote for the president?
Yeah, that would make me think that he could grow in office. Which
way is he growing? Like this way?
No, humans are strange. So I just want to say that I was really able to keep a straight face on this, but I want everyone to know.
I'm amazed that you picked this bit and you held it the entire time with such commitment. Also, you have to stop sharing your screen. Well, maybe Ben can do it for you.
Oh, yeah. Just by the way, I will say that...
I can make your screen disappear. Look at this. This is power.
Okay, great. One of the things I love, I just adore, I don't know why, maybe it's just saying something about me, but I love getting yelled at on Twitter. When I had this tweet...
I really dislike it.
Oh, you do? So I had this tweet this morning about saying how after the acceptance speech, Trump, I'm sorry, after the acceptance speech, Biden made the case that the election is light over darkness, and I strongly prefer the light, but I still want to hear from darkness before I make my final decision. And so many people yelled at me, like, said, "What is wrong?" And the thing is, I don't know.
About that?
You're the best kind of troll, Scott. Like, I mean, like, honestly, like, you're like too good for us. We don't deserve you.
Because you and Oren are basically the only two law professors who engage in what I call gentle trolling of the world. It's not directed at any individual, which is where trolling gets mean. It's just saying this thing that kind of is in the spiritus mundi, that it's kind of Swiftian in character, and it often plays, as this whole presentation does, it plays the wise idiot. And
you're explaining the joke, Ben.
No, I'm now that we've jumped out of character, I'm exploring the joke. And my question is, where did you learn it?
It's quite good.
It's a very interesting form. I've never been able to do it. So yesterday I tweeted the New York Times article about Steve Bannon's arrest with the, I thought, very Scott Shapiro-ian annotation. It's almost like Steve Bannon just isn't a good guy. And nobody reacted to it as
I love those jokes too. They make me laugh. I really find.
But nobody took it seriously. Nobody yelled at me. Nobody got upset. And I think, so what am I getting wrong in my efforts to troll the world?
Dignity. So the thing is, you have dignity. That's the thing.
You have to really live under the bridge, Ben, to be a proper troll. You have to
Exactly. You really have to. You have to have kind of experienced what it was, what it's like to kind of be the idiot. I will just say, I mean, I feel like so much of my life is really playing that role. I mean, that's what makes somebody a philosopher. It's like, that gentle trolling, like, do you really know you exist? It's a very gentle, how do you know you're not dreaming? And that's a kind of gentle trolling of the world. And I guess a part of it also is I grew up.
I've never thought about this way, but this is exactly right. This is also 100, as Michael is saying in the chat, this is 100% my partner. This is exactly what he does to me every day of my life. And it's been 13 years and I still fucking fall for it every single time. Every time. Now I know I hate philosophers. Somehow.
I shouldn't say we're very strange. I feel like I became a philosopher because the world didn't make sense to me. So many things didn't make sense. And I feel like that way too about who are these people who still haven't made up their mind? Who are the people that need more information? How do you look at this environment and think that there's any choice?
So did you watch yesterday's show? Because this was actually the subject that Sarah Longwell was talking about. Who are these people who are actually undecided at this point and who are... and she had a pretty interesting answer to this question.
Which was?
Which was that there are a lot of people who absolutely do not pay attention. And she described one, so she spends a huge amount of time doing focus groups with what she calls reluctant Trump voters, who are people who don't like him, but who voted for him. And she's interested in them because They don't like him, right? And so they're potentially gettable to vote against him. And she spends a lot of time talking to these people. And she described a discussion that she had with one of them in which he said, he voted for him, the economy was doing well, so she just didn't pay attention. She didn't think about it until all of a sudden he was stuck at home because of COVID. And then he started watching his daily briefings, and she was like, this guy's insane. And now this person is a pretty committed anti-Trump person, but had just basically tuned everything out before then. And she described a set of categories of people who, when you look at it from their point of view, it is actually not that irrational to have been or to still be uncommitted, including one person she ran into who said, I just learned that Biden had picked a woman to be his running mate. And so, you are, I guess her point was that you are operating in an information environment that is exceedingly unrepresentative. Let
me just say one thing.
Of course, the percentage of people who are undecided is under 10%. So you're talking about a small percentage of the electorate that is at a very different point on the bell curve than you are in terms of the information environment that they are living in. So, question is, A, does that move you at all? And B, if not, why not?
So first of all,
hi, Leah Lippman.
Hi, Leah Lippman.
Hi, Leah Lippman. I just want to say, Leah, I saw your question and I brought you in to ask your question, having no idea of your last name, only seeing the Leah part. So this was entirely on the merits. Had I known the last name was Lippman, I would have also brought you in on non-merits basis.
I guess I wrongfully signed up on Videocast just under my first name, but I'm glad to know my question merited inclusion.
This was worth, this was actually evidence that your question had merit.
Okay. Scott, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say that this bit did not come into being until like 2 months ago or a month and a half ago, after it was clear that everything was shit. So that's why I mean, that's the thing. Is like, you don't have to follow the news to know that like there's no economy and like your loved ones are dying, your kids can't go to school, and no one's doing anything about it. So that's so whether
you forgot murder hornets.
Right, and I didn't want to bum anyone out. But so I guess I think like how Joe Biden, what the content of what he said, it just strikes me as so obviously irrelevant. Though I have to say I think he did a really fantastic job, and I feel blessed today to the fact that that there wasn't some disaster that could be played up. But anyway, so I also I'm not making fun of any particular person. It's kind of
more categories of people.
Yeah, right. It's a category thing. Yeah, exactly. But can I ask Leah a quick question?
Then I get to ask you mine.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. So what? How did the finger happen?
Oh, like on my Twitter icon?
Yeah. I love it. I love it so much. But like, what are you doing with the finger? Are you raising your hand?
Yeah, it's a raising your hand
lecturing
emoji. Like, I want to talk. I have something to say, which is kind of my Twitter persona in some ways.
I gotcha. Okay. I'll just say one thing, because it's so funny, is that Cara Rose, my colleague, had this great a saying, which, oh yeah, she was the best. So she'd say, academics only have two modes, talking and waiting to talk.
Yeah, that's so true.
Mine is the waiting to talk mode. While I'm
Mine is like,
tweeting.
for me, it's like a lot of like, well, there's that, but then there's also the writing, and then like impaling myself on pencils, like while I write. That's kind of how
So Leah, the floor is yours.
Okay, so my question, Scott, that I got admitted into this forum to ask is, if one candidate committed to lighter tweeting, would that change your vote?
Oh my God! Can I just tell you something? This is what we call in philosophy a moral dilemma.
Oh my God!
You know, this is like
not abortion.
I just pause on that. One of the great things about the persona that you've created for this, Scott, is the denigration of philosophy by the consistent recourse to your being a philosopher, and that's one of. I just want to pause and step out of character to note the elegance of that.
Oh, thank you. It's just so ridiculous to be a philosopher. I mean, the whole thing about it is just it's just a ridiculous, absolutely absurd thing, especially to be a jurisprudence. I mean, what the hell is that? And yet I do it. So the lighter tweeting thing is
will you explain what that is for people that don't follow you on Twitter?
Oh, I'm sorry.
He has an ongoing, or maybe I should do it for you. Scott has an ongoing bit that is pretty excellent, that because he tweets a lot, that is like lighter tweeting today because X or Y or Z is happening, and it is both at times like kind of genuine in the causality. Though the tweeting never does seem to abate, and like the causality, and then like sometimes like deeply kind of like dry or sarcastic, and it's just kind of like an excellent bit. So that is kind of what Leah is referencing. Sorry to explain Leah's joke, but it's so good.
Oh, thank you. The guy who incessantly tweets about how he's not tweeting. So there's a kind of trolling myself on that. But if Trump were to commit to lighter tweeting, and reference me,
and reference
lighter tweeting, Scott Shapiro.
Yeah, I don't know.
Copyright, Scott Shapiro.
I would still say, and this is what a patriot I am. I actually would make on my decision. That would not matter. That would not be decisive. Okay, let me just say that. But what about if Trump? Let me turn the tables, Leah. Okay, what if Trump committed to enforce the Voting Rights Act?
Oddly enough, he already has done that through the addition of a citizenship question on the his attempt to add the citizenship question, and yet that has not swayed me.
How did I serve that to you? I thought you were going to. As soon as I said it, I thought she said he's already done that by appointing Jeff Sessions, by having nominated Jeff Sessions as Attorney General. But you're absolutely right. I withdraw the question.
All right.
I love how you say that like you've ever. Have you ever been in court?
Actually, I have.
Not as a defendant.
Yes, I have. I did practice some law. I did domestic violence advocacy and represented battered women and children in court. And
I didn't actually know that.
Yeah, I did. And I worked with an unbelievably great organization called the Sanctuary for Families, Center for Battered Women's Legal Services. And it was a really meaningful thing I did when I was in graduate school. And I did actually examine and cross-examine witnesses in court, and I was really bad at it.
Yeah. Wait, what? No, I can't. Really?
I was really bad at it.
I wasn't trying to challenge you. I was actually curious because I think that there's a lot of people who become law professors that have never practiced, especially kind of ones who have like a philosophy PhD, right? It's not, so I was just curious.
Yeah, well, I was just really bad at it because, first of all, I mean, I love Yale Law School, but they didn't teach me anything. And so when I went into, I remember.
What is the bumper sticker? Save America, abolish Yale Law School.
I always wanted to have a T-shirt that said Yale Law School, where ignorance of the law is an excuse. All right. Anyway, enough of me babbling. Yeah, Ben.
So Lawfare associate editor Jacob Schultz has an important question for you that he says I must ask you, and so I'm going to. And it is Trump really toast?
I mean, I mean, to be perfectly serious and not do I do Trump is toast because whenever there are things that don't make him toast. But I really do feel like it's just impossible to imagine a world in which everyone is out of a job. You can't see your elderly parents. You can't send your kids to school. You can't see your friends. You got to wear a mask all the time. People are extremely concerned about systemic racism and structural inequalities, and the president of the United States is AWOL. It just strikes me as inconceivable. Everything has, in some sense, feels like it's fallen apart, and I think the DNC, I think they made a really good argument about, like, these are the adults, we need the adults back, and I can't imagine Americans at the end of the day not seeing that. So I think
you gave a serious answer to
question. And that was your allotment for this hour. But I think he's carbon. I mean, I just don't see. I think, but whatever. I'm like a philosopher. What the hell are you listening to me for?
I'm not. My associate editor asked me a question to you, so I did.
Fire him. I mean, this is not.
I have a question. So, this is a personal kind of question about, like, my relationship with philosophy, which is one that, like, so I took existentialism, which was a class when I went to college, and I could not write like a philosopher for whatever, I don't know, there's a style that you guys write in, and I could not do it very well, and so I did not really take off. And also I think I just didn't like the concreteness and like the lack of concreteness and all of this stuff. And so I kind of trended towards, like, the sciences, and I did, like, cognitive neuroscience, and I did history, which I think, like, tries to, even though it, like, plays with the idea that there's, like, interpretations of facts, obviously, like, it, like, if you're reading one historian, they've taken a position. And I just was I never, ever saw just, like, because of that experience, I just was always like, oh, I'm not a philosopher, I'm bad at philosophy. And now I find myself at the end of all of these questions that I've had in my life being like, oh, these are just philosophical questions. Like, I wanted to study neurolaw, and everything ends up being, I mean, like, and Gideon Yaffe will tell you this, like, I mean, I figured this out years ago, but, like, everything terminates in basically, like, actual philosophical questions of interpretation, not to be super boring, but, like, what I'm kind of, like, interested in is, like, I'm just like, I wonder if I'm bad at this because I am so easily trolled by people like John and people like you, and I can never quite tell, and I'm never quite sure if you're like joking, or, like, if you're seriously asking me to consider what, like, the meaning of reality is, or whether you're just kind of, like, teasing me. And that's why I keep being like, I can't, like, I like, as a discipline, I can't engage with it, because there is just, like, because literally philosophers are trolls, and I am troll bait. Like,
you are. You know why you're troll bait? Because you're a very open person. You're really open to, and you're also, I hope you don't mind me saying, but I find you to be a very modest person. And so you assume that the other person knows something you don't, and you want to learn, and you automatically think that it's your problem. It's also true that, like, I mean, there is a reason why Monty Python uses philosophy all the time in their shows, because it's just ridiculous. It's a ridiculous set of concerns and questions. I love it. I think it's extremely important, and as you noted, it's really quite foundational. But it's I think for somebody like you, who's a really open, modest person, I think you fall for it because you assume it's got to be serious, and it could actually be serious. It just sounds so dumb.
There's always that option. That's like the really hard. It's like you did this whole bit, and part of me was like, well, like, I know I knew you were mocking this thing, but I was like, I do wonder that sometimes. Like, I mean, obviously not with Trump, but like, I'm like, oh yeah, like he is a builder, but not really a builder. But how do we define builder? And is builder important? And is that like, what about, and I just think I think that you kind of, your humor kind of illuminates, I think, a really interesting part of your entire discipline. And makes it super relatable in a way that, like, I just don't think that we see with other people.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Like I have not been canceled yet.
Yeah, I can't believe it either.
So everybody cancel Scott, because he's one of the people who will enjoy it.
Please. Oh no, I will no, I will not be. But trust me, I will not enjoy seriously being canceled.
But you like being yelled at.
You freaked out and texted me when you got your Twitter account locked.
That was
like a very dark day, Scott.
It was actually a very dark day because I didn't expect it, and I just you have like a whole relationship with people, and you have capital, and you have everything. You have a history with these people who I've never actually met and who I actually really like, and then all of a sudden, like the people I reply to and my reply people, I mean, they were all gone, and it just felt really sad, and I felt really impotent, to use the expression.
Well, you were silenced and cut off. It's like both a speech and association. I think you hit on a really important kind of point.
Yeah. Who are our guests?
Catherine, the floor is yours.
I'm part of the family.
It's a good blue, by the way, Catherine.
Thank you.
It's like, I like that on your wall. It's a nice look.
Thank you. I'm obsessed with blue. I can show you the rest of my house, which has different shades of blue. But anyways.
No, but Daniel scheduled his shirt to match.
I know.
So this is very convenient.
And also, the view of Daniel is always the same exact shot. It's that very deep chair with the same wall and back of it. So it's but for you, we have a different view every time. It's like, the only thing that coincides is the shirt and the wall.
Well, it's a reflection of my adult mind. Right. So I was going to ask you, Scott, you're very, very subtle in your humor, which is why which I like. I feel like I'm doing feedback. Should I put on my headset?
You're okay.
Okay, all right. So I laughed when you said I felt really impotent. It wasn't funny, but you are very funny. So there must be times when you do this stuff on Twitter that people don't know you're joking. They may be like, wow, there's this Yale he's like a muckety muck. He's important. He's smart. What the hell is he saying?
Yeah, no. So it happens all the time. And when there's a really fine line between like being an asshole and trying to trick people, and like doing something that is so outrageous that so one of the things I'm most proud of is a troll where I said that why is everyone upset with the virus? Most of the land mass does not have COVID. And this was a kind of making fun of the...
That was so good.
And just like people just like, how dare you say what kind of an idiotic thing? The land mass doesn't get viruses. People get viruses. They go for... And I just think if you yell at me and you didn't like think it through or check my timeline, well, the joke's on you. But I will say one thing, sometimes I want to say something serious. And so it puts people back. So for example, I just tweeted about how I just thought, like, imagine what it would be like for kids with speech challenges to have a President Biden. And, you know, that would, I like, I wasn't being sarcastic. I was being really sincere. And I don't, some people were like, I hope this isn't sarcastic. But like that, to be sarcastic about kids with speech difficulties or challenges would be like beyond the pale. So it just requires people to like, you know, like use a little charity and a little judgment and not like jump down somebody's throat without checking their feed.
Daniel, who's not David, the floor is yours.
So I'm just wondering, given your training in philosophy, whether you think the so-called rational ignorance model of the average voter is really that rational.
That's a very serious question.
That's too good of a question. I mean, that's a really good question. So, right. So the rational ignorance model states that since you can't make a difference, or the probability that you are the decisive vote is so small, and given the effort taken to vote, it is substantial enough that the expected value of voting would be negative. And that's because it's extremely unlikely you're going to make a difference. So that's assuming that the reason why you're voting is to make a difference. That's one of the reasons why you do it. I will just say that I do it because I mean, I'm being serious and not like sarcastic. I just think it's a great privilege to be part of something where you get to have a voice in who is an authority. And so to me, it's a very meaningful thing to do. I find it a blessing. And I feel I get a chill when I do it, and I'm being perfectly serious. And so for me, I think it's perfectly rational for me to do it because I feel like it connects me to everyone as part of this project of self-government. So, you know, so that's why I don't think the rational ignorance model is true, is universally valid.
Isn't that? I mean, I've always thought that we talk about voting in that language because it is not mandatory. And so if you think about the other two great citizenship obligations where you say, no one says it's irrational to pay your taxes because you're compelled to pay your taxes. And nobody says it's irrational to participate in jury service because, you know, the judge will send out a bench warrant for you if you don't show up. But because outside of Australia, it is generally not compelled to vote, we think of it as this option that you have rather than this sort of essential civic participation that the society requires of you. It doesn't require that much. It requires compliance with the law. It requires that you occasionally show up for jury service, requires that you pay your taxes, and it requires your opinion on a binary or multiple candidate basis once every year or two. And the only reason we create these theories for why people vote, even though it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, is that we actually don't think about it as a command performance without which the society won't function. We think of it as this choice or right that you have, which we do for lots of good reasons, I think, because we don't want to compel people. And by the way, we like to think of things as individual rights rather than obligations of society, your obligations to society. But I think it causes us to turn ourselves in knots about a relatively simple question. Like, people should vote and be informed because that's the way our system works.
Well, yeah, so you would have to be committed to the system and really care that it succeed. And I think all of us obviously have an enormous stake in it. It's a really fascinating question whether the social meaning of an act changes by virtue of the fact that the law requires it, or if the law it says this is so
Acknowledges it.
important that we don't want to require it. And it's, it really depends on the culture and the meaning attached to these things. I mean, they're just very perverse effects that I mean, humans are weird, and we
Speak for yourself, Scott.
yeah, I'm sorry. I'm very weird, and I often don't respond in the ways that I think I'm going to respond. So there's that famous Tel Aviv study of daycares by which you had to pick up your kid by 5, and the daycare instituted a system of fines for being 15 minutes late, 30 minutes late, or whatever. And they found that by introducing a fine on top of the obligation, increased noncompliance dramatically.
So I've always wondered about that study. I think that's one of the most interesting studies because people just felt like, okay, I can buy the extra time now.
Right.
But it also takes place in the context of a highly communitarian society.
It's a great point, I think.
The Israelis are they have this weird dual culture where they will, not stand in line, which is sort of like a famous, butting the line is a sort of famously Israeli behavior. But they're also just incredibly communitarian minded, and they will do all kinds of things that Americans will not do because their society just expects it of them, and they're very committed to those things. And so I wonder if in exactly the way that there was a sort of revolt, a kind of moral revolt among a lot of people, although they eventually lost when the kibbutzim started dividing up resources by contribution, that had a big effect on the kibbutz movement. And in exactly that way, the moment you allow people in Israel specifically to pay for instead of merely being civic minded, it has a much bigger effect than it would have some, maybe similar to Denmark, but not similar to here.
I agree, but doesn't it, when you reflect on it, don't you feel the force of the explanation? Like, don't you think, if I could, okay, I'm coming late, but at least okay, I'll pay for it, and it kind of takes away some of the guilt. It makes you feel like I'm not sure we would feel like it was a price, but we might feel like it's reparations of some sort.
But, not to make this super, super meta, but isn't it about and I argue this all the time, the idea of framing something in terms of we're going to give you a rebate versus we're going to give you a fine versus we're going to give you a tax. And so if you do it as a fine, then it does seem, or a fine, it does seem like a punishment. A fine is for punishment. It's for you have to pay for acting badly or outside whatever the law is. Whereas if it had been framed you can leave your kid here until 5:30, but it's going to cost you $250, then wouldn't an economist also just say well, you're improperly pricing that? Either you're free riding on the identity of the social meaning of a fine as having a shaming value, I think, or a guilting value for the person. And if it's not, if they just decide to view it as a price, then you lose all of that. Is I guess does that make sense?
Yeah, of course. Yes, I think that feels right. But yeah, Ben?
I think that's exactly right. So I have two personal experiences with this exact question. When my kids were little, my daycare center did have a fine for being late, and we were religious about picking the kids up on time. And now in my kids' older age, the place that we have sometimes used for doggy daycare also has a fine for picking up the dogs late. And we never pick up the dogs late. And the reason is because it's framed as a fine for violating the expectations.
Yep.
Whereas if they framed it as, here's how much a day costs, or if you want to stay late, you pay an extra blank, I think I'd probably use that a fair bit.
Right.
But the framing of it, as Kate says, matters a huge amount. It's the difference between acknowledging that you've erred and paying the penalty for the erring.
But this is also
the error.
And this gets
Go
to your
ahead.
Israeli point about like communitarian culture, because like that matters, because that sets the norms that are violative of like, and why it would like, why, but maybe Israeli culture values the cost, like the ability to like pay for $15 for an extra 30 minutes of picking up your kid, like into like looks at it in more kind of like, looks at it more kind of economically. I don't, and so maybe that wins out over the potential shame of a communitarian culture. But like, I think that what you're saying is correct. I just think it's super complicated. And
I by the way, I will say, I'm sure that there's a big literature out there. I'm sure people have done cross-cultural studies of this deterrence, reverse deterrence thing, and I'm sure. And what this conversation has brought home to me is that I ought to look at what that literature is, as opposed to just this one famous study that I read about, and therefore, spout.
So we've got to wrap up. But I think it's really important that we end on what your message is for the undecided voter, because it is 10% of the electorate, or 6 to 8% of the electorate. And we have to do a poll for the audience.
Yeah, we should ask the audience who Scott should vote for.
Yeah, I think that's right. I have a feeling I know who's going to prevail, but we're going to...
Has CNN hired you to be their undecided voter yet? Like to just consult?
Do y'all remember the Bush Gore debates, where the big question, where they had, it was the fetish of the undecided voter, and they would have the debates, and there would be the big question was, this was before Medicare Part D, Medicaid Part D, and Medicare Part D. And so Gore would give like a whole benefit sheet explanation to the undecided voter, and then Bush would say something else, and they would be kind of different, but there would also be promising voter. And then they'd interview them at the end, and the undecided voter would say, "I still feel like I need to hear more." And so, and partly, I'm kind of channeling that kind of.
That is it was 100% how I see you, 110. I think it was the guy with the mustache that stood up. He became a.
Oh yeah,
it was a real milkshake duck thing. He was instantly famous, and then they dragged him, and he turned out he was late on all his child support payments, and he hadn't done anything. And he was huge and famous.
Come on, guys, sweater guy.
Yeah,
sweater
exactly.
guy.
I want to point out that Biden has just taken the lead in our poll over Kanye.
That's not who I voted for.
Wait, I want to be really careful. I think we're doing everyone a great disservice. This poll, we will not know the results of this poll. Now, it may take a week, it may take a month. we should not be pushing this
away.
Ken Bone,
oh
my God, exactly.
Now he's ahead of Kanye.
No, we ought not to. We ought not to condition.
It's going to change how people vote.
The decision. I just heard from the decision desk, and the Lieu of Fun decision desk has called the race in favor of called this poll in favor of Biden for a very simple reason, which is that there are 64 people on the Crowdcast, and 33 of them have already voted for Biden. So, unless people actively change their votes, Biden's going to prevail in who the audience thinks you should vote for based on your presentation.
Don't let them bully you.
Yeah, we just don't know if people have mailed the poll results. I just think this is premature, and I feel like if my time here meant anything, and the message that I have for the audience out there, which is be deliberate, be prudent, don't make decisions too quickly. Okay.
What if there's like a speeding car coming at you, Scott?
Yeah. What if there's a
More of
trolley?
problem.
Yeah. Thank God. Yeah.
Is the poll rigged?
Is the poll rigged? Yes.
Yes. Well, yeah. Tony
Yes.
thinks it's rigged.
Yes.
I have to say, it's so disconcerting to read the commentary on like what
you're saying as it's
what you're saying as you're saying, and it's really hard not.
You can. I should have walked you through this. You can move it. You can make it go away.
Okay, because it is. I would say that it makes me. It has made me at various points feel a tad self-conscious.
You know, and
this is what I like best about you, is that you're not self-conscious.
I think of the chat as a running, you know the way Buddhism separates the commentary, the commentary mind from the decision mind, right? The films that your mind shows you, and I think of the chat as all the things that my mind is showing me that I have to control my feelings about.
But don't make any decisions too quickly. Just
exactly,
like just
All right,
Scott, it's been too long. Thank you for coming on. Come on again soon.
Tomorrow we have.
Thank you so much.
It's been great having you, Scott. Let's do it again, and let's bring you on to discuss important news events that are being taken too seriously as a general matter. I
want to be. This is my third time. I want to be the Tom Hanks. I want to be the Tom Hanks of In Lieu of Fun, like, the lovable celebrity who everyone respects.
Yeah, just shows up periodically.
Yeah,
are you
just shows
sure?
up.
Just show up anytime is the answer.
Okay.
I was thinking of like in what is the one where he like talks to a volleyball?
Castaway.
That's the one that's the Tom Hanks you are. Like between there and like You've Got Mail.
I love Castaway. I think about it all the time. It's a great movie. I've seen it a bunch of times, and that is a great honor.
Okay.
All right. So we will be back tomorrow. It will be Saturday, so it will be just us. We will do a lot of polling. We will plan the show. There are some questions for us on Twitter, hard-hitting questions from Joel Woodward, which we promise to address.
They're like the most flattering questions on the planet. They're like,
yes,
are you as awesome
we're
as
going to
you
take
seem?
on those hard-hitting questions. It's going to be tough, but we're going to do it. That all of that is 22 hours and 56 minutes from now. And until then, we don't have fun anymore. But we do have undecided voters. Have a good one.
Thank you so much, and I actually feel so much more clear-headed about what I need to do. Thank you.